Hello guys, hope you're all doing alright. Um, yeah, so today's stream was a little bit later than I expected. Ended up working today, so I didn't get to do a stream in the morning like I normally like to on a Saturday. But that being aside, obviously it's been a few days since last stream, just because work, as you expect, got a little bit busy. So I didn't want to stream the last few nights. I have done some work on the project, I just didn't want to do it live. So in terms of what I've done, is obviously one large change, which is the lighting. Lighting is just a studio, I think it's a small Studio 9 from HDRI Haven, or Polyhaven even. I just really like the kind of effect it gives. Granted, I will be rendering obviously with other cameras. Beyond that, I worked very, very briefly on the beard groom. I just kind of broke up the area here, because if we go to this, you can see a very clear like swoop that goes through, and that's because all my guides were lining up like tip to root. So I fixed that, but that's literally all I did to the beard. Just added a bit of curl to some of the guides, and that was enough to break it. It's still there, kind of. You can still see the remnants of it, but it doesn't line up like it used to. So it feels a lot more natural. I also baked the cavity map from 3D Scan Store. So that cavity map is now multiplying my spec. So now cavities in the displacement don't get spec, which gives me a little bit of a nicer effect. If I go into my specular direct, you can see how there's a little bit extra noise in this. And then the biggest change, I've also randomized the melanin of the beard, but it's like completely random. So we will be resolving that today with some maps. But the biggest thing that had a much larger effect than I expected, and has definitely like increased the memory consumption of this project, is I realized I forgot to change the MIP map bias on my displacement maps. So when we were zoomed out like this, we were getting much less detail than we could have. So the normals passes are now much, much more detailed. Granted, this is still quite low resolution, so you don't see that much. This is only a 1K render. But I set the MIP map bias to -2, which did a lot to break up the specular. Like, it really made quite a large difference. So if I just get this up, I'm going to get... I did save them somewhere. Or maybe I didn't. Is this the one? No, that's the one I saved. Yeah, okay. Basically, it was just a lot shinier. The cheeks were like kind of glossy. It kind of felt a little bit greasy in a way. And that wasn't being caused by the specular roughness. In fact, the specular roughness is still a little bit high, potentially. It was just being caused by displacement. The actual surface did not have enough roughness to it. Now that we've fixed that, it's gotten a lot more kind of natural feeling. I really like what the studio light is doing to the meniscus. Something else on that general topic, I was doing some ref hunting the other night and found this image. So I've always known that the chruncle kind of blends into the eye. On some people more than others, and it does seem to depend on pose as well. But this is insane. Like the cruncular blends completely into the sclera, and it's kind of hard to tell where it ends. Like I can see, obviously, is this watermark which kind of throws us off, but there's like this kind of jagged pattern, which I think is where the cruncular ends, which suggests that the cruncular is like almost fully transparent, like all the way out here. So I might do that. I kind of like the effect it gives. I would have to figure out how I want to shade that, because obviously it's not actually transparency, it's refraction just through a very, very thin mesh. But we'll have a play back with that and see how that looks. Yeah, beyond that, nothing really changed. All the changes I have done are very quick changes. And so yeah, I just wanted to get started on the melanin shading, because this is still incredibly basic. So in that, it's literally nothing going on. It's got a little bit of like strays and stuff, but that's kind of it. So we'll be working on shading today. With that all out of the way, let's get started on that. So in terms of age, because obviously the painting can be trusted generally, but it doesn't give as much information as the actual looks of the grooms. So the closest age is this guy. The painting is just a little bit older than that, as you can tell by the extra eye wrinkles. which are much more defined in this reference. But I think this is the closest image in terms of age. So we're going to focus mostly on this in terms of like, how the individual hairs look when you put it all together. But yeah, we'll get the general color zones from this guy. The fact that all these images are black and white obviously doesn't help. Although it is interesting that his mustache seems to have grayed more on one side than the other. But yeah, anyway, so that's that rendered done. I'm going to put that on my other screen, and let's get into Mari. So, in terms of approach, I've got a few things that I'll probably do. So let's just go into objects. I want to go to my groom geometry. Okay, so over here, we've got all these data things. So let's just turn that. I'm going to kind of backdrop all that. There we go. Just to kind of, I know you can do a backdrop for all of it, like just layer it, but I prefer to have that kind of bookmark thing. We're going to create another backdrop. This one is going to be shading. So the way that I'm thinking of doing this, something that I don't like with the Maya Katana workflow is that everything can get a little bit slow when it comes to constantly going back and forth converting TX files. Now that is something that isn't as prevalent in the industry because you have like scripts to go through and do it all for you, but in terms of personal work and the fact that I don't know how to use the TX convert outside of Maya, like having no UI just cripples me, means that I want to get a little bit inventive. Now, something that we realized when we were grooming in this series so far is when you update the TIFF files that Yeti is using, it is able to render that without you having to convert anything. So what I was thinking is I create a bunch of maps and I load those into the Yeti graph directly, and then use that Yeti graph to put them as hair attributes. So we can actually just use a user data float or user data vector in Mari and Katana and Yeti, rather than doing TX files and messing about with getting the UVs transferred and that sort of stuff. So that's the way I'm going to try to do it. So let's just create a backdrop called shading. And we're going to create a probability. So I'm just going to create a channel. And we're going to start with... how do I name this actually? I guess we just keep it the same as everything else. ISO hair. Let's say white probability. Is that spelled correctly? Let me just check. Okay, yeah, that's spelled correctly. So for hair, white probability, that sounds good to me. It doesn't have to be a high-res map. It is scalar data. So we'll do that. Now, I'm not going to worry about painting the correct gray values because I can always remap that in Katana. So I'm just going to create all this stuff. Let's just grab that. Okay. And we'll test it just with the one for now. So let's go in. I'm going to... Oh wait, we can just... channels. And this will be painted for all of them. Something important to note. There we go. So let's get this guy. Okay. Let's get the... I'm going to move that to the other screen actually. Okay. We're going to go to... Let's go with a somewhat textured brush. Okay. Turn that off, that's good. Let's go into the painting. Oh, tool properties even. Let's just change the size of that. bit too textured. Like, I want some texture in the brush, but really not that much. I kind of want like a soft clouds look. Something like that. Ah, didn't mean to do that. We're not going to worry about symmetry for a little while. Okay, something like that will do. A little bit too patchy for my taste. Okay, and we'll do, just so we have some multiples to set up, let's duplicate this. We're going to do a black hair probability. Okay. Okay, something like that. This one be black hair probability. Cool. And let's very quickly paint all this out. Okay. There we go. Okay, so black hairs, we're just going to sneak a few in around. It's like the areas that look grey are going to be a mix of like the black hairs and the white ones. There we go, so flat. I can remap this to be what I want later. Cool, so let's get these two exported. I'm just going to go export flattened current channel. Okay, so we go into groom maps for these. Then here we're going to create a thing called shading. And then I'm going to remove that. Okay, utility raw, that's fine. Okay, do the same for this guy, export flattened, export current channel. So now let's get into Maya. And for now, we'll just set it up with the beard, because that's one where it's most visible. Just let it load up. There we go. So, turn that off. Okay, so go into the groom. Let's hide the utility group because we don't need the guides. Go into the grooms. Fur beard. Once we've got this working on one of them, we can just copy paste it to all the others. Okay, so all we're going to do here is create an attribute. So, see if we can remember what that looks like. Cannot. Create attribute. Oh, so it's that guy. Okay, and we're going to map as a renderable attribute. I'm going to call this ISO hair white probability. Cool. We want this to be vertex, and for the default value, let's just do that. It blows off the side. And for the default value, we need a texture, which is a little easel. There we go. Default. And in here, we're just going to find projects, personal projects, John Singer Sargent, texturing, publish, groom maps, shading, white hair probability. And we can just delete everything prior to that point. Cool. So at this point we should now have a... Yep, there we go. So now let's create a preview shader node. There it is. Okay. Oh. There we go. Because that looks like it's worked. We need to gamma it a little bit. But that in theory is already working. So now let's just drag that over here. We're going to copy paste all that. Bring it over here. Rename this to black hair. Okay. There we go. Right, that's worked. Cool. Okay, something like that. So, something like that. Let's get that exported. So I'm just going to save my scene. And if this works, we'll copy it over. So, forbid, Yeti, create Yeti node on mesh. No. I guess we're going for selected Yeti node. Let's go modeling, publish, groom, forbid. Then we're just going to go into our shader. It's going to freak out for the mustache, but that's fine. Just go into the groom mats. So mustache mat is being used for everything, right? I need to rename it if so. Yeah. Okay. So mustache is being used for both. Which means that you... No. Oh, is that it? That's my mustache mat? Alright, cool. As a test, we're just going to create a user data float. Throw that in there. No? Okay. ISO hair white. Like that. And we're going to plug that into melanin. We're going to turn down the randomize. I'm also, just while we do all this, I'm going to turn off the skin shader, because the skin shader like ramps up the scene complexity quite a lot. Okay, we only need to see this bit. If this renders, then we can go ahead and start setting everything else up. It worked. Good. So, with that being the case, let's start getting all that working. So, we're going to need to temporarily turn off diffuse, which it is. Good. Cool. So yeah, that's working. So we'll get that copied into everything else. And then we can start actually painting stuff. So I'm just going to copy all this. Go into the mustache. Okay, we'll get this exported. Yeti. Export going from selected Yeti node. Mustache. And we'll do the same for the head hair too, as much as we don't actually need it yet. So let's get to head hair. We don't need it for eyebrows or eyelashes, I don't think. We might add it for eyebrows later. Eyelashes, definitely not. Okay. So let's just go to... Okay, we got that. So let's just see if the mustache renders, so we know if copy pasting it actually worked. I see no reason for it to not have done. it worked. For a second I was like, oh, it's broken, but no, it just didn't paint. Okay, so now let's go in. Let's think for a moment. So this is white hair probability. Okay, so for this to work, we need to compare it against a random value. So let's create a another user data. Now we know that every hair already has a unique ID, so I think it's just fur_ID. User, so it's going to call this data fur_ID. This is a random integer per hair, so like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on. So we need that to be between 0 and 1. So jitter will do that. I think that goes there. Yeah, it does. Alright, cool. I know it doesn't. It goes into data input. So this defaults to 1. So I'm going to set that to 0 and gain it up to 1. I could keep it at default and gain it down by -1, but I prefer to stay with positive values. So jitter for ID. So that gives us a 0 to 1 value. And then we can compare those. So we compared this to that. Less than or equal to. We could do less than, but I prefer less than or equal to. That will output 1 if true and 0 if false. So we'll do one more render, and what we should see is entirely black hair, or entirely white hair with patches of black, because we're plugging it into melanin. So if we have white hair with bits of black, then we're golden, and it's working. If not, we need to do it in the actual groom. But that could be worth me just doing like test renders of these guys as well. I've just realized something. Disabling the skin material will do nothing if I still have this set. Let's go like that. Keep it nice and simple. Say back up to 6 later. Compare white hair, true. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. It just threw me for a loop because it's the white hairs that are negative. But yeah, no, this is fine. This is what we expected. Cool. So if that being the case, we can start building a shader out of this. So let's start by finding a melanin value. So let's create a layer RGBA. Plug that into melanin. But no, plug that into melanin. Plug that into melanin redness. And I'm going to plug this into diffuse. But I'm just going to keep that at 0 all the time. Okay, so LRGB, facial, hair. In fact, we can do this for all of them at the same time, right? Yeah. Hair, melanin. Don't know why that took me so long. Okay, so let's find out. There's the head hair. Let's grab this guy. Okay. So then, let's think. layer 1 is our base melanin. Oh wait, did I put that in the wrong place? I did. Base melanin. Layer 2 for now, but we will change that later. This is the mix. And this is going to be white hairs. That won't work. That should now render the way we want it to. And we can set a range on this guy. But for now we'll leave that alone. I'm going to have to pull this way back, because this is going to drive quite a lot. I think the self-portrait painting was around 50 years old. Yeah, he is. I have the age down here. So it was painted in 1907, so he would have been either 51 or 52 at the time. I've put a message just because I don't know if he is at the current time. But yeah, so let's kill that. So we want to connect that same one to you, and you. Delete these guys now. Okay. There we go. So I'm just going to render out a full thing. Why some hair's gone super dark? Oh, I need to set this to replace. Or overwrite even. So I will be moving that white percentage. There we go. Because we need to add a blonde percentage as well. Yeah, so I'm gonna range this. And we'll need to clamp whatever output this gives us. Oh. Okay. Let's clamp that. Okay, so it's going to range this. So what we want is to change the minimum. So let's just say 5% of all hairs, and at most 90% of hairs. Range. Oh, that's not what I want. Let's put that for a moment. Grab this guy. So we'll be copy pasting all this for the other hair colors. Keep it all clean. Okay, and that's clamped like that. So what we'll find now is we get more strays, like stray white hairs. And basically wherever we have white hairs, we're also going to have black hairs mixed in. Just because his hair's grey and not white. Okay. So we need blonde hairs and black hairs as well. So I'm going to handle that as 3 layers. So what should be the top layer? I think the black should be a top layer. I think. Yeah, let's go with black. Okay, so I'm going to go with... No, that's not what I want. Mix. Blonde hairs. Let's think for a moment. I'm just going to add black hair layer here. And by black, I just mean darker. So we're going to get that base melanin, which is 0.5, and I'm going to bump that up to like 0.8 or something. Redness, I'm going to keep to 0. And set that to replace, or overwrite. Okay, so let's just quickly go through, start getting the other ones in there. So that's already set up. Now we need that again. Put 1. I'm going to call this one black hair true. Keep the probability the same, but we'll just replace all the words white with the word black. We do want a fair bit of overlap between the white hair sections and the black hair sections, so we may need to start combining these two before we do the compare, like if we multiply them together or add them or something. And that will just stop it from, you know, just being black hairs everywhere. Because I think the black hairs, visually at least, are most important in the white hair sections for that contrast. Okay. So this one will go into mix 4. And we just need this guy to go like all the way back. What we'll probably do is just like create dot nodes. I don't like the linear lines. Let's just do something like that. Cool. Drag these down a little bit. Turn off the second layer. That should work. See how that renders, and while that goes, let's create a third one. So this one is going to be blonde hair probability. Okay. I'm going to paint a 50% value. No, let's go 40%. Especially around the mustache. That'll do. Channel. Hi, Mark. Hi. I'm not called Mark. Mike. Is there a reason that you don't evaluate your diffuse texture under a neutral light? Because I'm just kind of playing about with it, honestly. In the current light that I'm using is neutral. It's like pure white. But the thing is, like, I want to match this guy, and this guy isn't in neutral light. So it's kind of hard to say. Like, I'm not trying to make an asset that'll look good in every lighting scenario. I'm just trying to make one that'll look good for a small set of renders. So I've not quite got the same target as I would at work. There we go. Oh, okay. So we need to jitter that differently each time. Hi, Jeffrey. How's it going? Okay, we're going to need to jitter that each time. For ID, let's say white. We should be able to jitter this differently for each one. So let's just go data seed 1. Let's go black. Okay, so that should re-randomize it. If it doesn't, we're gonna need to create some new random, a new way of randomizing shit. Okay, that's that exported. Let's get into Maya. We're going to add, let's put it between these two, just for the sake of cleanliness. So let's duplicate this. Come on. Wow, this is struggling. Okay, that's worked. So I just need to randomize it differently for each one. Yeah, there we go. That's worked just fine. That's good though, because that's a little bit more controllable. Okay. So we'll kill that. Okay. This is just going to be blonde. preview that. Okay, that's kind of what I expected actually. Okay, I'm just gonna get that entire back section. So let's get that exported. For head hair, that's fine. We'll go to the mustache. Or beard. Let's go to the beard. Delete you. That's something I might just have to quickly go and do is re-export the head one. Let's just preview this. Yeah, that's working. So I feel like you need to preview it at the correct stage. So we grab that. Okay. So let's hit this stage, Yeti. Export groom from a selected Yeti node. Then go to the beard. Hey, there you go. Thought Becca was stuck then. Re-export the beard. How diddly. What's it, sorry? I'm alright, yeah. Yee. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I had a sandwich. It was good. Got the probability shading thing working. Actually worked first time, which I was pleasantly surprised by. Surprise! Okay, so let's get that. Yeti export ground from selected Yeti node. Let's put that in. It's mustache, right? Yep, it is. And then we're just going to go to head hair. Okay. I'm going to view this from here, so it's definitely got all the nodes. And then go Yeti export ground from selected Yeti node. Head hair. Okay. Oh hey Ryan, what kind of sandwich? I had a poulet and brie, so chicken and brie. Yeah, Bella Deli. Oh, Bello Deli, sorry. It's really good. You'll probably find, Ryan, once you hear that Bello Deli becomes your like standard lunch spot. It's really fucking good. Right, so that's that sorted. I'm going to start this archiving. I might create another data channel for randomness. So let's go projects, person projects. How do they texture upper eyelids in production? Do you mean like with the bit that's kind of hidden? You just make a blend shape with the eye closed, UV it and texture it like that. I can show you in a moment. Granted I haven't textured mine yet, but you can. The setup is there. Let me just get this texturing publish. Oh no, not publish in this case. Mari body archive, and we'll just archive over this because we've really not done much. Okay, this is going to be a long one. But yeah, so if I select this model, is it the Greggs of Canada? No, so Bello Deli is literally just one deli, and it's really fucking good. And it's like, I don't know, like 3-minute walk from NPC. They do really good sandwiches, really good pasta, good salads, good brownies. Brownies is the important bit. But yeah, so the question on eyelids, basically, you would have your UVs somewhat like this, where the eyelid is closed, and then you can just texture that as normal in Mari. You don't have to do projections, you can just go into UV view and do that. Or you can make a blend shape with the eye closed, load that into Mari and paint with projections. It's honestly a personal preference at that stage. But yeah, you just make sure you got closed eyes in the UVs. Yeah, so that should work now. That's still archiving. That archive might take a while. So, we got blonde hair. Let's just grab all this. Okay, that came off for some reason. And we're going to go jitter for ID blonde. Okay, Data seed 2. Okay. Lond. Okay. So we go to this guy, put that into the mix. We can add randomness on top of this, but honestly it's not really worth it. That's fine. I'm just going to rename this to blonde hair equals true. Okay. I guess we could use... We could use this as randomness. Oh no, sorry, this channel. If I'm not using diffuse, then this third channel can be used for that. Let's just check out this other stuff first. You okay, Becca? Your phone charger? Okay, we got all that. Or did I actually rename? Nope. Okay, so we'll go into this channel, turn that on. Blonde hairs, white hairs, black hairs. Blonde hairs, I'm just going to go with like 0.25. It's not really blonde per se, it's just lighter. And redness, we'll put that to like 0.3 or something. Yeah, I think randomizing it using this could be good. So let's disconnect that blue channel. Just going to open that up. I'm going to go melanin randomize, like that. So now we can control how random the melanin is on a per color level. Let's see how that renders. And how's it archiving? It's archived, good. Let's archive again. So it always cuts the size. Oh, that's actually correct size. Good. Then we'll have to do some actual grooming at some point. Yep. I turned it off when I got home, yeah. Oh, really? Yeah, I only turned it off when I got home. The trap was full when I emptied it, but I haven't emptied it today. That's weird. Okay. So we're gonna need more black hairs, less white hairs in this area. This color's not a million miles away already. If we check the albedo, you'll see the per hair variation going in. Yeah, so we just need to reduce the amount of white hairs and increase the amount of black hairs in that area. Yeah, okay, let's do that. So let's go to white hair probability. Just gonna move that over. So that probability is way too high. Let's go to like 0.6. Cool, stuff like that. Let's go into that black probability. But yeah, so Ryan, the Gregs of Canada, I don't know, Becca, will you agree it's Tim Hortons? The Gregs of Canada? Huh? No, but like, the Gregs of Canada would be Tim Hortons. The nearest Tim Hortons to NPC is a little while away though. Like, it is walkable for lunch, but you just wouldn't want to. That'll do. Let's export this guy. Export this guy as well. My guess is we're just going to have to slowly step down the white hairs. Because of the way it's layering, we may need to go higher than we expect on white hairs, but then pull it all back with black hairs. Yes, that's a much more grey tone now. I feel like we should put the skin shader back on. Just don't increase the subdivision back up. It'll give us a better representation. That's it, like truly randomized. Might need to increase the density eyebrow on this a little bit here. So are we getting too much black in this area? We are getting quite a lot of black in that area. Okay. So it needs to be less white back here. Possibly less black too. It's hard to tell sometimes whether it needs to be more black and less white, or more, less of both and more the brown. I think the percentage is getting a bit too high up here as well. It seems to kind of line up with the ear. So we need to pull that back too. Well, I am quite liking the spray that we got up here. Okay, let's get less white in this area, a bit more black, or about the same black. Yeah, less white. I'm going to treat white as a saturation more than a color. So if we need more saturation, I'll reduce the white. Okay, so let's get into here. White probability. We're just going to go in and paint. Move on to the other screen. I'm going to go in and paint a value of black. In fact, let's just paint solid values so we know what we're doing for a while. Paint 0.3. Something like that will do. Just going to bump it up a tiny bit. Okay, we're just going to pull this back. There we go. Save the scene. Re-export the white probability. I need a bit more white here. This is working better. I feel like we need more white in general, like as a floor value. Although it is pretty white already. Is there any way to get Is there any way to get Maya to lay out UVs to a specific UDIM tile without doing it manually? Yep, yeah, there is. So if we go into, oh Jesus, there we go. I'm just gonna hide all this. Let's go to the outliner. So hide all grooms. That's probably what's making it slow. There we go. So if I create a cube like that, and we're just gonna cut all the edges. Cool. So we can select all this, go to Layout UV, and then you go into Region preset. You can set that to different areas. I'm trying to remember exactly where you do that. I think it is in this guy. So it's been a while. Might have to use... Oh, it's in full 3D, okay. Don't know why it was in Legacy by default. But yeah, so you just tell it in here, packing region. So like U max, V max, all that sort of stuff. So if I set this to 6, it should do a face per UDIM. There you go. If I want all these packed within the first 3 UDIMs, then I can just set that to be 3. And we'll do that. Don't know why it's done it like this. I guess if I just told it to be in the first 2 UDIMs, it would have done that. Or I can go to layout. I can say between, and let's go 2 and 4. Now it's not enough UVs for it to actually fill this space, but it's going to try to like stack it like that until it gets to 6. I think it goes across first, then up and back, then across, then up and back, then across. Like that. In terms of general settings, what I will say is these are my like kind of baseline settings. So I'll set it to 4K because I almost always set it to 4K. Packed together should be on by default. Shell rotation is taste and something that you will change quite frequently. I either have it set to vertical or align Y to V. Aligning Y to V just means the top of the object will be towards the top of the UVs and the bottom of the object will be towards the bottom. Depending on the shapes that you make, you may need vertical. So if you'd like UV to something that's diagonal, doing a line of any of these will give you weird results. So you can just pick horizontal or vertical. Translate, rotate shells, I just leave those alone. Translate is all I need to do. Shell padding, I tend to set to 16 pixels, which is a lot, but I see that as 8 pixels per shell, because if these are 16 pixels apart, each one of them gets 8 pixels, which I think is fair. And then you just set your range within that. Scale mode, uniform, non-uniform. I think that's just like, it can scale in U and V separately, which I don't know why you'd want that if you've unfolded it. I also strongly recommend having fixed non-manifold geometry off by default, just because you don't always know what is manifold and what's not. So if your model's wrong and you have this turned off, it won't fix it. It'll tell you something's wrong, but then that gives you the chance to go fix it properly. But that's the way I kind of set up my UVs. That's looking a bit stronger. I'm going to add some blonde hairs down here. Or some more blonde hairs, I should say. So let's go... I guess, actually, the blonde should be more of a ginger, right? Let's add a bit of redness to the blonde. A bit more redness. Let's put that to like there, and put you up to 0.3. We need more straight white hairs, I think. So let's just go to our black hair, go to the range. I'm gonna go with 10%. Might be a bit much, but I kind of prefer this. Yeah, Google will return a lot of old scripts. So the thing is with Maya is because it's really old, there's a lot of documentation for like genuinely great tools. Like you'll see like Nightshade UV tools, for example, which are incredible. But most of the functionality that you'd want is now pretty much rolled into Maya. So a lot of the kind of paid plugins that used to be basically necessary aren't necessary anymore. So by sheer chance, we seem to have got a really bright patch of ginger hairs right where there is a bright patch of hairs, although these aren't ginger. Oh, these aren't ginger, sorry. I just want to see how this resolves, because this will resolve to like a flatter color. Hair always looks more contrasty when it's in the early sampling phases. Like, it's crazy the amount of contrast it gets. I'm back. Okay, so we're gonna need less white and black hairs in this area here. I think it's still too many white hairs, right? I'm gonna also go into my eyelash. In fact, let's quickly clean all this stuff up. So let's just grab you. So this is eyebrow map. That's what the peach was, man. Yep. Backdrop that. Hair. Surface, coat, matte. This is a utility, so I'm gonna label it, color it red, which means that this should be red too. Individual materials should get their own backdrops. I'm gonna put these in blue. What material is this? Eyelash. The lack of consistency is going to blow my own mind. 5. Okay, so let's reduce the amount of white and black in this area. Maybe slightly increase the amount of black here. Overall, it's a bit too dark right now. So let's start off by adjusting the white. Go into Mari, and go into the white probability. Just pull this down a little bit more over here. And I'm just going to do that by painting. There we go. Something like that. That'll do. Let's maybe add a little bit more white over here. Okay, then we'll go to black probability. Also pull that back in this area. Add a tiny bit more here. Something like that. Okay. Export flattened, export current channel. I do need to migrate to the export manager at some point in Mari, because I used it today in work and it is really, really nice. because I've not been using Mari very long professionally. I'm still very new to it. Hence why OCIO is still kicking my ass. Luckily with data channels it's really easy, but yeah, it's with color, like OCIO is still quite confusing to me. Right, I just saw that you changed my name to Mark in the fucking chat. Well, that's gone a bit too... We need a bit more white hair, I think. But we're baby stepping in the right direction. Let's just let this clean up for a moment. Well, it'll probably resolve to be a colour that's a bit far off what I want. The smiley face. Okay, I think it's time for me to start getting in and really starting to do some chaos in this white map. Because that, I think, works. I just need to get in there and start varying it. Break up the symmetry as well. So let's turn off symmetry. We can always resymmetrize it later. Granted, I'm not sure how I would resymmetrize it. I know there is ways to do it. But it's not really something I've done too much of. Okay, so we're going to need to paint a higher probability. Let's go with like 0.5. Something like that. So now's where I could go in and start doing all sorts of weird shit with like noisy brushes, like really noisy brushes, like the pepper brush. Which, if I was painting a color map, I think I would use the pepper brush. But given that probability is inherently noisy, I don't think I really need to worry about it too much. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Okay, we're just going to add some tiny patches of black. So like areas where there's very few. The temptation to hide a message in this probability map is really high. Okay, something like that. I'll just like boost a tiny patch of the hair, if that's where the hairline is, which I think it's not. But let's get that exported. So that's the wrong one. Okay. let's clean up for a moment. Looks like it's worked. I think what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to keep this stream kind of self-contained to Mari groom stuff. Just so I can kind of really get focused in. In which case I can actually close Maya now. Just alt-save my scene. So I probably want to move the eyelashes and add a bit of density to the inside edge of the eyebrows. It's like, obviously it looks very different from this one, but I think in terms of actual real ref, I think this is my main one. And it's still a bit more solid on the inside than what I've got. So I'll add a little bit more. I just need to get a lot more noise in there, because like he's got some really cool noise in the end of his mustache. But my mustache is still kind of a bit too boring and there's really not much going on. Maybe the front should curl out slightly. That's what the issue is. In fact, yeah, that is what the issue is. The front needs to curl out away from the face. And the beard needs to kind of swoop up like that. Did he shave his neck? Or is it like very short? Granted, hairstyle here is very different from hairstyle here, I think. Okay, so I'm going to add some randomness now, because we've hooked that up to the B channel. So let's get like 0.2 of randomness in this guy, and lower melanin values get more extreme, or less extreme variations, so we'll bump this one up a little bit higher. I'm not going to worry about the white hairs or black hairs. Does redness actually have an effect on zero melanin? That'd be good to know. Okay, let's just kill that for a moment. Save. Why can I smell mashed potatoes? Let this clean up for a moment. We also need to get some diffuse shading in there. Now, something I've been looking at off stream, which so is an idea that I've had. I can try to explain it on stream. I'm not sure if it will work. But basically, the Arnold hair shader is actually starting to get a little bit dated now. The reason for that is part of the hair that's called the medulla. So I'm not sure how many shaders have it. I know Free Delight has it, which comes with obviously Katana. So I could try that out at some point. But obviously this project is Arnold based. But the medulla is it's part of the hair. It's like the core of the hair basically. But it only really shows up in hairs that you consider like coarse. That's like a simplified understanding of it. So like animal hair has a medulla very often, but like facial hair and like basically any hair on your body that is kind of spiky would have a medulla. I don't know if human head hair can get it. I guess it depends on your hair type, but I don't think you can, but the effect that Medulla has at a broad term is kind of like diffuse. So hair on its own doesn't have a diffuse, but Medulla kind of does. I guess it does. It's just kind of not technically diffuse. But basically, to kind of mimic the effect, I need to add a diffuse component to my hairs to kind of make them feel a bit thicker, a bit more dense. Now, the problem is, if I was using a color map, it's actually really easy. I can just plug the color map in to the base color of the shader and then plug it into the diffuse as well. But I'm using a melanin workflow, which I personally prefer. I could replace all this. I could replace all this stuff with literally just color values. There's been nothing stopping me doing that. I just have to disconnect it from melanin and plug it into base color. But I prefer using melanin just because I know that every value is possible. So the idea that I've had is, if I was to get a plane, just a plane geometry that is a square, render that from above, so that it fills the full screen space of a square render, 1024 or 248. Apply a hair shader to that, and in the hair shader plug a U ramp into melanin and a V ramp into melanin redness. That would give you a gradient of all the melanin values, right? So if we go to Weta Digital Hair Shader paper, I can't remember the name, it's energy conservation paper. I'm just trying to remember the actual name of it. Energy conserving hair reflectance model. So read full text. So this one. This is starting to get quite old now. 2011 is when this one was written, apparently. But in this, one of the diagrams is every possible melanin value. So U melanin and pheomelanin. So what I'm thinking is, if you was to do that ramp thing, it would give you a square that is effectively this. If you then take the albedo AOV from that, it's the raw color output of the shader. So in theory, you could load that as an image in here, take your first two channels, so this is melanin redness, plug those into the U and V coordinates of the image, and that will give you the same color, but with an actual color rather than two separate values. You could then plug that into diffuse. I think that would work. I'm not entirely sure if it would work, but I think it would. It's something I'll test off stream just because it's going to take quite a lot of trial and error, I think. But that's the thought process, and I think it has some promise. It could actually be something very interesting to do. So I'll do that off stream so that I can start getting some actual diffuse in there. But I just thought I'd kind of let you guys know because I think it could be quite interesting. Okay, so have we got more white hairs here than before? We actually have less. Weird. But yeah, there we go. So that's looking a lot better than it did before. Because before it was true randomness. Now it's actually controlled. Okay. Anyway, so that's that done. Let's start doing some stuff with this. So let's go to albedo. Yeah, so we need a bit more hair here. So let's go into our data channels. We can lower this a bit ambitious. Backdrop these. Color probabilities. Jesus, why can't I say that back to back? Color probability, there we go. Let's keep it consistent. Camel case it. So let's go to eyebrow data. We got density. just need a bit more of this white tone over here. Okay, so let's go make this symmetrical again. In theory, that's already enough. Let's just for eyebrows, export that. Did I export the UDIM with my probability maps? Oh, gross. That's really unnecessary. Okay, I'll fix that later. Let's just do that. Catalog. Let's go into this guy, track that as an underlay. Do I have any colour, broad colour variation on the eyelashes, or eyebrows even? I guess not. So we need to move the eyelashes down, that's the next thing. That's actually worked fairly well first time. Granted, I don't like this new stray. I quite like the downward sloping one that we had. Don't like the new one, it's just a vertical line. But then we can always just change that in the actual eyebrow material, if we just change the seed in here. That'll just make it white or not. It won't change the direction of that hair, but it will change the colour, like which ones are selected as greys. Cool. So let's move the eyelashes down, that's the next thing. Now this one's going to be incredibly finicky. It's a width thing, not a density thing. Yeah, density is nice and simple. Good. Okay. So we're going to need to paint a solid brush to keep it simple. I'm going to make it that wide. What I'm going to do is just paint with roughly this thickness. Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to add, basically add mask to the bottom. I should probably use a smooth stroke, but I'm going to add thickness to the bottom of the lid, or bottom lid mask, like that, and subtract about the same from the top, and that will just move everything down a little bit. There you go, stuff like that. And we'll just carve off that corner. Just kind of chip it away. Okay. let's just go eyelashes, mask, export current channel. Okay. Update. Then we should just be able to render that like that. What we should see is this black line just move more in line with the actual eyelid shelf, because currently what the issue is, we've got the eyelid shelf and then our hair kind of bumps that up a little bit. It doesn't follow it. So you can see it mostly on this side. So this should all move down a little bit. And the guides I built have a second layer of guides on the bottom shelf, so it should still work visually. We're just gonna need to let this clean up. And then once this renders clean, I'll probably end the stream. I know it's only been a short, well, let's say a short one, it's been 2 hours. But we've made a fair bit of progress. Like on the hair shading, we've got like the general setup there. This looks like it's worked. From a preliminary standpoint. Yeah, it's looking a lot better. Pull down. It's a subtle change, but it is a change. Also moves the shadow down, which gives quite a nice effect. I think we still need to move it down more over here, but that could also be a guide thing. Let's go to the albedo. It has all moved. It's gone thicker on this side, so it's kind of gone a bit chaotic, but yeah, I think we'll call the stream there, because we've made a good bit of progress. So I'm going to kill this render. I'm gonna up my subdivision again to 6, which is a lot heavier to render, but I like the quality difference. It's very subtle, and honestly it probably won't come over stream. In fact, yeah, definitely won't come over stream. But we'll render this, get that closed, save. But yeah, I'll get this rendered. The next stream, I should hopefully stream tomorrow, maybe, I'm not sure. I'm definitely not working tomorrow, I don't want to work a 7-day week. So yeah, I'll probably stream at some point tomorrow, and we'll go over a bit more groom work. Potentially start on the sculpt again, we'll see. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Only been a brief stream, but you know, good enough. But yeah, that'll be it for today. Anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.